Now let's talk about percents, ratios, and proportions. Before I dive into this video, I want to remind you that in the field of mathematics, we typically call pre-algebra, we spend quite a few chapters discussing fractions, decimals, and then percents, ratios, and these three things we're looking at today. These three. So it's important that if you want to go deeper into the topic or start from the beginning, let me know. You can use our Redwood's, you can use the free book, which we use as our textbook for teaching pre-algebra, called Redwood's Pre-Algebra. This is available in this ACT course. You can see it right when you log in to the course. In the introductory section, you will see some PDF materials that are available to you. That is one of the books available to you. So please, if you want to go further into the concept and understanding the details, let me know. This is just going over a few practice problems. When we talk about percentages, we're looking at basically something that is a part of 100. So when we say 5%, that is 5 over 100. Now, if somebody says, what is 5% of 10? You would technically be writing 5 over 100. So 5 over 100 times 10. That is what is 5% of 10. Now, if you want to simplify this, we know that the zeros can cancel out. 5 goes into 10 two times, so your answer is 1/2. This is just an example, 5% of 10. So if we say 5% of 100, that is 5 over 100 times 100. That would just equal 5. Now, the reason why I can cancel these hundreds is because there is a multiplication here between them. If there's an addition, you can't cancel. If there's a subtraction, you can't cancel. But you can cancel when there is a multiplication between them like that. So that's 5% of 100. If somebody were to ask what is 10% of 200, then you say 10 over 100 times 200. And then the rest of this is basically using your understanding of fraction multiplication, simplifying fractions, and so on and so forth. So remember, a percent again is we have a part and a whole. So you have a whole here. And if I take a part of that out, in this case, if that was exactly half, then it's like 50% of that, what I just drew. And sorry, that should be a better circle. Sorry, it didn't come out great. But so that is an example of, again, seeing percentages. We also have to know, again, it's important that you know the part over the whole, right, times 100, that is equal to the percent. That is a formula that you can use. Part over whole times 100 is equal to percent. Let me know if you have any more, if you want more examples with the percentages. I will go ahead and talk about ratios and proportions here. Now, with ratios, we talk about something written. Now, these are all connected, and you will see more and more as we go on. When we say the ratio of 5 to 10 like that, you can write that as 5 over 10, which is in its simplest form 1 over 2. But with ratios, you might have seen these columns, looks like the same column that you use in English. So you have 5 to 10. So that's a ratio of 5 to 10. Or sometimes people might say a ratio of 1 to 2, right? For every 1 of something, there are 2 of something else. So think about sandwiches. When you're eating a sandwich, right, you need, or something like a burger, which I don't really eat much of burgers, but I'm just trying to use this example here, right? I like more of chicken and rice and things like that. But when you're eating a burger, you have the buns here, you have 2 of them, and then then there's a meat, right? It might be your sausage would go in between. So for every sausage, you need 2 of those. So it's like a 2-to-1 ratio of the amount of bread you need to the amount of sausage you get. So that's the ratio explanation with food. Again, we do math every day, so you see how we see that here. So 2-to-1 ratio there. Now, how does this tie to proportions then? So we've talked about ratios, we've talked about percents, and then proportions would be situations where you might be given a problem like this one. You can cross multiply to do here, where you might be told 10 over 8 is equal to n over 10. And you have to solve for the n. So basically what you do is you could cross multiply and you get 8n is equal to 100. And then you can basically simplify this, which is dividing both sides by 8. Now, this is turned out to become a sort of an equation that needs to be solved. We have one-step equations, two-step equations, and so on and so forth. So proportions would involve basically situations where you're solving for a variable like that. Or if I said 7 over 5 is equal to x over 15, you cross multiply, you have 5x is equal to 15 times 7, and then you just solve that to the end. Remember, there are videos on solving equations. We're going to look at that in more detail. Solving one-step equations, two-step equations, multi-step equations, solving inequalities, absolute value equations. These are all coming up in the next series of lessons shortly. So stay tuned. And if you have questions on how to solve these to the end, let me know. But you will just divide this by 5. And the 5 goes into 15 3 times. 3 times 7 is 21. So we would get a 21 in for that x. That is how we'll deal with that proportion. So think of ratios as, with ratios, I gave you like just, you have one set of, like one situation like that. With proportions, we're comparing two sets of ratios essentially. Something over something equal to something over something. And then with percentages, whatever the percent, x percent of 15, you just write x over 100 and you multiply it by 15. I'm using x to represent whatever this number I give you here is. So if it's 10% of 15, then x will be 10. Whatever that is, this is the setup to find the percent. Now, as far as applications, there are applications in discounts. You go to certain stores and they tell you 50% off. That just means you take 50% from the price of the product, and that would be, now in this case it would just be half of the price, but whatever the percent off, that's how you calculate. And it's good to remember that the applications of percents are seen in consumer math. When you go to the store, when you are trying to order things online and there's 10% off or 20% off, it helps you know if it's worth it. It's also helpful when you think of unit price. So you go to the store and there's a box that has 10 items, for example, and they tell you that it is 5 cents per item. Or they tell you the price of the whole box, but then they tell you how much it will cost if you're going to buy it just one at a time. Generally, now let's talk about applications for a little bit. Generally, when things are in a box in a store and you could buy those same things in unit items, so like one item, right? So like a pack of Gatorade, you can either buy the whole pack of 6 of with Gatorade, or you can just buy one standalone Gatorade. The pack of 6, if you were to the pack of 6 Gatorades, if you were to try and calculate the cost for each one from the pack, if you were to take one out of the pack of Gatorades and compare the price to this one item, generally this will be cheaper. This is just, again, general life principle for you at no extra cost to you. Just want you to be aware of that. That sometimes it is cheaper to buy things in a bigger set than it is to buy it with just one item. But if you don't have the money, then of course you only get what you can get at the time. But if you can, I want to encourage you to think about getting things in sets. Of course, these are things that are helpful to you. I'm speaking of, get them in sets rather than one, and that way you can save and then maybe give more away to others who might be in need. Just an idea to think about. So ratios, percentages, proportions, very important. It's important that you dig deeper. If you need more notes, let us know. Take care and have a wonderful day.